Hello, everyone, and welcome in. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. As we were loading it up, it has just dawned on me that this is, in fact, the season finale of Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts. I had originally said it the other day that Dave Kluge was my last one, but then I realized Dave Kluge was out live, whereas this is a scheduled show. So this one will be the last one to drop and is my season finale. And here to help conclude Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts, we have my buddy from the Expo, Dennis Michelson. Dennis, man, it's great to have you back on. Always good to chat.
Yeah, Aaron, great to be back on with you. And it was so cool to meet you at the expo. It was great when you came up. It's so exciting when you meet people that you've been chatting with for a long time on Twitter and you finally meet them in person and they turn out to be even more cool than they were on Twitter. That's always a good thing.
I'm not going to lie. Some of the most stressful things I ever had to deal with at that entire expo were the 5 seconds where you're walking up to, whether it be the biggest person in the industry or the smallest, that 5 seconds where you're about to walk up and introduce yourself and you're going, I know this guy on Twitter. I sure hope he recognizes me, because I think there was only one person where they're like, huh? Oh, yeah, I remember who you are. But you always have that fear inside that, does this guy remember who the heck I am? And sure enough, I walked over and I said, sure hope Dennis recognized it. Well, and it's hard for me too, because my name tag says Aaron St. Dennis, and then you got my face. Twitter, I'm the Mad Scientist, and it's a logo of a Mad Scientist. So I'm going, sure hope he knows who the hell I am. But sure enough, I walked up and you knew who I was. So it made me feel better. You were easy. You had your own booth set up. And actually, I was talking to my friend there. She was walking around. She's a Chiefs fan. And she said, man, look at that guy with that sweet Mahomes. Was it Mahomes? Sweet Mahomes jersey. And I said, oh, that's Dennis. That's Dennis. That's awesome. So your jersey was awesome. That black and red one was sweet.
Yeah, I had the black alternates that they don't really wear anymore. They did it one season, I think, but my wife got that for me for Christmas, and I'm absolutely loving it. And yep, had the booth going, the Pod This Network up and alive, and we were just having our sort of our pre-launch at the expo, and it went so well.
Why don't you use that to there transition into what it is you do and where people can find you?
Absolutely. So over at scienceoffantasyfootball.com, where me and the fantasy professor have two podcasts and so much material to look over that researches the data of science or of fantasy football from a scientific standpoint. So we let the statistics guide us to the answer instead of cherry picking stats. And I'm a big believer in weekly values. The professor has come up with a great weekly value analysis tool called Counts Over Median. So check that out over at scienceoffantasyfootball.com. And also we have our podcast, The Data Lab, over at For Frequency's Sake. And, I'm always D Mike Media on Twitter, and very soon the Pod This Network will be launching podthisnetwork.com. And that's where the professor and I will move one of our podcasts over there. And also have a new feature. And here's your test for the day, Aaron. I've got a new feature coming out called 2-minute warning. Guess how long it's going to be?
Minute and a half?
You're right. No, it's going to be 2 minutes, of course. Hey, you got to have a little fun with it. But
makes sense.
Anyway,
makes sense.
It's going to be aimed very much at the casual user. It's already got one radio station here in the Midwest that will be playing it on Saturday mornings, and hopefully expanding all across the Midwest here to some sports radio shows that I have had the honor to be on over the years. So going to be pitching that to them. But it's it's a lot of fun, and boy, what a great time of the year here for fantasy football. We've gone from all of the rookie draft from Dynasty to the best ball season. Now we're in redraft season, and next week starts the casual fan season. So this is a perfect time of the year for fantasy football.
Yeah, I think a couple of things there. I had a cousin ask me the other day if I had my rankings done yet. because he was going to start his first draft. And I said, yeah, I sent it to him instantly. And he said, you had that just ready? I'm like, I'm 63 drafts in. Yeah, I had it ready. So that was my first thought. My second thought was, I'm still recovering from the expo, so I'd appreciate you not making me do math anymore. That's not cool. I don't want to have to do any more. No more questions, Dennis. I'm the host. I don't want to answer any more questions. I still need some time. And my final thought on what you had to say was, the majority of the people I met this weekend said, a variety of things about how hardworking I was and how they were going to nominate me for Rookie of the Year and all that because I was so hardworking. You make me sound lazy, man. With all the stuff you're doing, I'm starting to think I need to work harder. You're
Oh,
hard.
no, you put out a ton of content, Aaron, and you definitely qualify as a Rookie of the Year candidate because you've hit the ground running. And as I've told you, I do a lot of media coaching in my career. Over 20 years, I've been helping coach folks to be better in the media. You've got it already rocking, my man. You are excellent at what you do, and I enjoy being on your show. I enjoy listening to your show. You're very good
Thanks,
at
buddy.
interviewing people.
I appreciate it. All right, I guess we should get into it. We do have 3 players to talk about, and if we don't get to them soon, I'm going to have a very angry, newly 9-year-old pounding down my door, wondering why we're not gone to play with his friends for his birthday yet. So I can hear him getting restless in the other room, so we should probably get to it. And without further ado, we have your first player, your sleeper. That would be coming up on the screen. There we go. New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara. Fantasy Pros, which I should note, seems to be very conservative on every single player. But their projections are RB27, 757.3 rushing yards for 3.9 rushing touchdowns, 45.9 receptions for 378.7 receiving yards, and 1.8 receiving touchdowns. Why are you looking at Kamara as your sleeper? And I know it's weird because a guy who's a perennial top 5 is now your sleeper, but looking at where he's ranked, it fits.
Yeah, when I look at the term sleeper, it's everybody's got a definition for the word, and what I look at is a guy that's going to finish way above his draft position. RB27 for Alvin
Yeah,
Kamara is insane, and I know he's been lower because people were worried about he's going to be suspended to start the year, but he got a very light suspension, so that
that's
doesn't
an
bother me at
understatement.
all. And I don't care about what a player's year-end points are because this is fantasy football. This is not rotisserie baseball. I get to make a substitution for the first couple of weeks that Kamara's out. And at their ADPs on several teams, I was able to buy the entire New Orleans Saints running back room. So
Yeah.
I've got Kamara, I've got Jamal Williams, and I got Kendra Miller. I just got to figure out which guy to play on which week. And some weeks I might play both of them. I might play one in a starting running back, one in a starting flex, because they're going to be a very good offense this year. And Kamara, when it comes to his weekly value, once he comes back from suspension, he's a top 12 guy all day long. On a bad year, he's going to
Yep.
give you a top 12 finish on a particular week. So his consistency is great. He's going to be getting a lot of receptions out of the backfield for this team. And I don't look at the year-end totals. I don't care about year-end totals. He's the kind of guy that can get 5 to 7 targets in a single week. And that's why I like Kamara as my sleeper, because in my weekly value stat that just looks at his best 10 games for the year, he's going to be a top 12 guy, and he's coming in at RB27.
I am perennially the world's fastest drafter, and it pained me last week. I'm not the guy who I like to waste my clock. I like to draft quick, even in the slow drafts. I have my pick ready. It's like even I played poker for a living, and you see the guys who milk the clock. I don't. When it gets to me, I know what I'm doing. I mean, I haven't just made a split decision. I've thought this out. I'm ready to go. So it got to me. I jumped in, got the guy I wanted. This was probably the 11th round, maybe 10th round of a draft. Jumped in, got who I wanted. 10 minutes later, when I should have been on the clock, it was announced that Alvin Kamara got a 3-game suspension. And I said, well, I really wish I was the guy on the clock right now, but it wasn't. And sure enough, the next guy was smart enough to snap up Alvin Kamara at a heavy, heavy discount. So
Yeah,
lesson learned.
and early in the season, early in the draft season, back in May and early June, He was coming in at about RB 35. This RB 27 rank is a big improvement. I was forecasting him to miss 6 games, and he was
I
still a
said six
guy
to
out.
eight.
Yeah, I thought he would lose 6 games, and at 6 games lost, I was still buying Alvin Kamara. And the reason was that running back room is very predictable. Unlike so many running back rooms. Look at Dallas, for instance. You got Pollard as the top guy. Then you got Malik Davis, Dowdle, and Rojo. Who's going to be number 2 on that team? I have no clue. On the Saints, I know that Jamal Williams and Kamara are going to split the touches when they're both healthy. And when Kamara is suspended or not playing, Kendra Miller is going to be the guy. There's no guesswork with this Saints offensive running back room, and it's a good running back room. So I like the prices on all of these guys, and all of them are capable of producing at the worst case RB2 or flex capabilities on any given week. And on the best case, they're both RB1 candidates because Williams can score you 2 touchdowns any given week.
I don't want to stay on Kamara too much longer. I just find it interesting. I have the NFC ADP up, geared only to the last week. In the last week, we found out that A, Kamara's only getting 3 games, and B, Kendre Miller left practice with a knee injury. Still, he's going off the board as RB 30, 84th overall. How he's going behind Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's in what, a 5-way backfield now in the Jets? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. This makes no sense to me. He's going 1 pick ahead of AJ Dillon. I don't get this. If this is an accurate representation of the drafts I'm going to be doing, I'm going to have a ton of Alvin Kamara, and not just because I'm a Saints fan who has a Kamara jersey 10 feet to my right, but because that's a steal. You're right. What did I say? 84th overall. 84th overall. I don't even need him to be a top 12. If he's a top 24, he's a steal at that price. I don't get this. I just don't get this. I get it. It's everyone's gonna say, how is a guy who's a perennial top 5 your sleeper? Well, he's your sleeper because he's going to be a top 12 to 15 again, likely, and he's going at RB 30 overall. So that seems to be the free space that people haven't adjusted to. My only worry is that once we get into the more casual drafters, they're not going to know all the offseason drama, and he's going to be a name. But that'll be something to monitor once you get into your more casual drafts. We will move
Yeah.
on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll take him as early as RB 15, but I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have to, is the great thing. So
yeah.
he's been a huge bargain all year long.
The fact that he remains a huge bargain is mystifying. What are we doing? But moving on to your breakout prediction, that would be Houston wide receiver, basically a rookie. Not a rookie technically, but he didn't play last year due to what I believe was a leukemia diagnosis. So hopefully he
Yes.
is on the mend. That would be Houston wide receiver John Mechie, projected as wide receiver 75, negligible rushing projections, 40.9 receptions, 556.7 receiving yards, and 2.8 receiving touchdowns. Why is the former Alabama receiver a breakout for you?
Because of his pedigree, this is a guy that was a huge player coming out of high school. Everybody wanted him, and he
Well,
ended up with
if,
one of
if
the
you
best.
needed anything more to know about how good his pedigree was, I went out of my way to mention Alabama in his intro, which I don't normally do. So that proved your
No,
point right before you said it. So
no,
go ahead.
he's got the pedigree. This is a guy that was predicted to be a great NFL player his junior year of high school. I mean, this is no surprise. And the only thing that kept him from being a breakout candidate last year in the NFL as a rookie was a life-threatening illness. And from everything that I've heard, he is back and healthy and was in practice pretty early in camp and actually played in the first
Yeah.
preseason game. He's going to get no issues from the leukemia as far as slowing him down any heading into the season. And the Houston wide receiver room is just all crazy. So it's just waiting for somebody to take over, and the rook is going to be throwing, and the
Well,
rook is going to be there from day one at quarterback. And that's why I love matching him up with a young wide receiver so the two can grow together. And Mechie he's just one of those dart throws at 75, or WR
Yeah. Okay.
75. I don't want a guy who's going to finish WR 50. Okay. That's not a win for me. What I want is a guy that's got the potential to be uh, cracking my starting lineup, especially in best
Well,
ball. And this is more of a best ball than a redraft league pick, but I'll grab Mechie and sit him on my bench in redraft and see how it goes because the sky's the limit of what this guy's talent could be.
it's good dynasty stash too, but like
Oh,
there's no
huge.
competition here. Like Dalton Schultz may lead the team in targets. Last I
Yes.
checked the depth chart, the wide receiver 3 might be you. So like I just, there's nothing like Nico Collins. I'm a Michigan fan. I don't think Nico Collins is ever going to be what people want him to be. I don't even what Xavier Hutchinson is. Robert Woods still on this roster?
Robert Woods is there. Yep. And
If
and he
someone is
doesn't
going to hit, it's Mechie. It's got to be Mechie. There's no other way. There's no other talent in this receiver room that has the ability to hit significantly. You're right. Nico could be wide receiver 50. I don't care either. I want someone who, if my wide receiver 75 overall pick, if I draft him at wide receiver 75, I want him to potentially hit as a wide receiver too. I don't want wide receiver 50. It means nothing to me.
and I've been buying him all year long in best ball as one of my last picks in the draft. And he's got nothing but upside to go.
Yeah.
You're right. In Dynasty, he's a great pick and stash because you can still park him on your taxi squad if you need to in most leagues. So he doesn't have to do anything. And I'm not looking at much from him for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. But as the season goes along, I think there's going to be some chemistry. And I think he's got the potential to really surprise people. And, if I'm going to give a breakout, I want a guy who's plus 70 on the at the position. I want to go with the thrill factor. And I'll be honest with you too. His story is so inspiring, and this kid never got negative from day one when
Yeah.
he was diagnosed. I mean, here's a guy entering the NFL. He's got his whole career ahead of him, gets a life-threatening illness. We didn't even know if he'd be here today, let alone ready to play in the NFL. And he's ready in week one of the preseason. That's an incredible worker when it comes to work ethic of getting back in shape. So I'm rooting for Mechie, and he is my breakout guy.
But that just goes to show you how out of sight, out of mind some of these players are. This time last year, I had rookie drafts where Mechie was going in the mid-second round, early second round, like a round or two above Christian Watson. Now Watson's going wide receiver 16, and this guy's going wide receiver 75. The talent, he was still better. He had the talent over Watson. I get he didn't play, but it wasn't, attitude or it's not like he was suspended for gambling, wasn't injured. It was, blood, leukemia. So I just don't get it. And everyone's jumping on Tank Dell because CJ Stroud asked for him, but Tank Dell is my height. Like this isn't gonna work. Tank Dell's not gonna work. If there is the next D Hop to emerge out of this Texans offense, it is going to be Mechie. He's the only one who profiles as a potential alpha. The rest
He's
of them profile to be maybe a slot receiver or a gimmicky receiver. That's it.
Mechie has the size and the speed to be a serious player in the NFL at wide receiver. Dell's going to be a great kick returner. I have a couple of leagues where I get points for kick and punt returns. And Dell is a guy that I took late in my rookie drafts in those
I,
dynasty leagues because I like the return yardage. He's
I
going to be a good kick returner. He's got a little bit better body than a Tutu Atwell or a
yeah.
Rondale Moore. So I think he will be something in the passing game. But boy, it would, defy all of the odds if he becomes the WR1 on that team, especially because he's got to beat out Mechie eventually.
And that leads us to your final player, your bust. Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, projected as RB9, 1,258.5 rushing yards for 8.8 touchdowns, 33.5 receptions, 234.1 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown projected. Why is Jonathan Taylor going to be a bust for you?
So it's the definition of the word bust for me that does it. Because when I look at a guy in the first 3 rounds of my fantasy football draft, I want some level of security that this guy is going to be what you expect him to be. And this year, we don't know what Jonathan Taylor's going to be. He pissed off the team management
That
with
he
his
did.
demand for a contract. They may
Yep.
try to trade him. We don't know where he'll end up. He's had injury issues that have kept him out of practice, but is the injury bad enough to really keep him out of practice if he got the bigger contract? I really don't know. So when I look at a bust, it's not a guy that I say, "Oh, he's going to for sure he's going to be RB 25 or worse." It's a guy that I don't have a clue where he's going to finish. He could do better than those statistics. In fact, back in April, when I did my first set of projections, and before he started in with all of the holdout talk and the contract talk, he was my RB1 this year in fantasy football, according to my weekly value stats. I thought he was going to have a huge season. He could still have a huge season, but he has so much uncertainty. And in the first 3 rounds of a draft, I hate uncertainty. The longer you go into your draft, once I get past round 7, 8, 9, definitely past round 10, all I care about is upside. I don't care if the player crashes and burns because I can replace him in redraft with another player. I'm only looking at upside. But in the first 3 rounds, and the worst I've seen him rated is the 19th overall pick in a draft in a 1 quarterback league. 19th, that's way too early to absorb that much uncertainty for me. Even though he's a great player, I'll take somebody else, thank you, and know that my first 3 guys are going to be studs I can count on
Yeah.
unless it's injury. In this case, he could just sit out all season. He could just be blackballed by the team because they're like, screw you. I don't want to deal with your contract issue. I'll put Deion Jackson out there because guess what? We're not going to be going to the playoffs this year. So if we get the top draft pick, great. Because now, if we get one of the top 3 draft picks next year and our quarterback of the future that we took this year isn't any good, we got another shot next year, high up in the draft. I think that's the mentality of the Colts. I don't think they have a contender. So they're willing to play a little more hardball with Jonathan Taylor because they just don't care. And his attitude has really ticked people off. Way too much risk. Now, next week, if he gets traded to my Chiefs, he's back up to RB1
Yeah.
material. I'm just, of course, being joking about him going to the Chiefs because that's the team that should have drafted him uh, right there when he was a rookie as well. But that's how I frame a bust. It's a player that I just don't have enough certainty about in the first couple of rounds to bet my draft on him. You're not going to win your draft in the first 3 rounds, but you are going to lose your season in the first 3 rounds. If you have 2 of your 3 players crash and burn because of injuries or anything else, you are going to have a very long season. Why start out with one guy who already has a lot of negatives to his name?
I'm flipping through some of my drafts here. It's tough. A lot of them are dynasty and super flex, but I see them going a lot late second, early third. And you're exactly right. Like the talents there are a ton of pros where he was an RB1, the RB1. He has the RB1 overall upside, but he has completely useless downside. And you're exactly right. Like I just took him actually in a draft in the 4th round. Super
Oh,
flex,
yeah.
super
Yep.
flex dynasty startup. So I didn't want to take them. I had Chubb on the board. I had Eckler on the board. The only reason I took him, it was dynasty, and I already had Christian McCaffrey. So I needed a little bit younger back there. In redraft, that's not even a decision for me. I'm taking Chubb. I'm taking Eckler. Like the 2 of them, I get it. They're older. the safety is it's way better for the two of them at that range. And you're right. I don't know if I necessarily say round 7, probably round 7. I guess you're right. Inside the top 5 rounds, I'm looking for little to no risk, which is why I don't have Anthony Richardson. I'm not taking Anthony Richardson with, like, I seen him go in the not dynasty. It was a Superflex league startup, or not Superflex redraft league I did yesterday. Someone took him at the 111. I'm sorry, if all the quarterbacks fly off the board that quickly that I have to use a 111 on Richardson, I'm punting quarterback. Not doing it. I'm punting quarterback. I'll just stack Chase, Jefferson, CMC. I'm not doing it. Too much risk too early, and the Colts seem to be the definition of risk here. They all have great upside, league-winning upside, but they all have, team-busting potential. So that is obviously why he is your bust.
Yeah, I've got Richardson in that 10 to 15 range is where I think he could finish. But boy, oh boy, in a redraft league, I wouldn't touch him. I wouldn't want him. In a best ball league, I'll take him as my second quarterback. I'm not taking him as my first quarterback.
It's a redraft league, super flex. So you're gonna have to, you can't afford to take him as 111 maybe.
111,
you can't afford to take him at 111 as your QB1. And then to make it worse, I can't remember who it was, but they were busting the guy's balls in the chat because he waited 5 rounds after that, and his second quarterback was someone almost as risky with probably less upside. And I'm just going, oh my God, are you building a disaster here for risk in a super flex league? I do not want Anthony Richardson as my QB1 in a dynasty or a super flex league. I mean, I have him as one in a dynasty, but that's a different story. I was rebuilding and I just drafted him, but if that's my option at the end of the first round, I'm punting it. I'm taking wide receiver, tight end. I'm not taking Anthony Richardson, but somehow I turned Jonathan Taylor talk into Anthony Richardson hatred. Go figure.
And I had one league where I took Fields, I took Richardson, and I took Stroud in a 1 quarterback best ball. Got them all at good values.
There you go. Yeah, but that's different. You can stack them there.
I'm rolling the dice with 3 young quarterbacks, and it was a risky maneuver, but I was okay with it. I would have even been okay with it in best ball. I'm not crazy about Richardson, but again, back to the player at hand, Jonathan Taylor. If he came into the 3rd round in a redraft, I would probably be taking him. But in the first 2 rounds where he is going now, and at one point, just a couple weeks ago,
it was the 1-2 turn.
He was the RB4, and he was going between 9 and 13
Yep.
overall.
I got him. Yeah, I passed on him at the 1-2 turn. I had some mock drafts where he was going at 108, 109. So.
No, as soon as the contract situation started, I was in avoidance mode.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up. We only got about a minute, so you want to finish her off here by telling everyone once again where they can find you and your work.
Absolutely. D-Mike Media right there on Twitter is the best place to find me for all the insanity. And then scienceoffantasyfootball.com, and for frequency's sake, for all of my weekly value data, the professor's data too. He's got some magical stuff on ADP that'll help you win your draft. And also at for frequency's sake, where you can catch us on the Data Lab.
Perfect. Well, this has been the season finale of Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts with Dennis Michelson. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again to Dennis for joining me, and thank you all for tuning in. Take care and have a great night, everyone.